When's the first time you saw her and she saw you? Like what? Take me back.
We were set up on a blind date.
Oh, okay. First date. What'd you do on the first date?
I took her to the Applebee's in Auburn.
Yes, y'all.
Yeah, fancy, high dollar.
It's college. That's actually a pretty good date.
Applebee's was.
That's a strong early move. Yeah.
Hands up, heads down, shake it on, turn around. We're kicking down, we're gaining ground. We do it right, do the here right now.
King Saville.
Scott, how we doing?
Welcome to Super TRUEper.
Thank you.
By the way, this is the first time we've done this. You just rolled in hot from Birmingham and sat down, and we're starting.
Yeah.
So
about a 90-minute drive. Had a little time to contemplate on the way up here what we might get into, but you and I have known each other long enough. We can probably.
I think we're going to do it. But we were talking just before we started about, as I was thinking, like there's a bunch I don't know about you. This is actually going to be fun for me because I know you, but yet don't know everything about you.
Well, I listened to your podcast with our friend Chris Watt, who's we're not supposed to have favorite reps, but he's in the vicinity of one of my favorite reps that we've known each other a long time. And you and Chris had just tons of crossovers in your life, personally, professionally, all that. So I think you and I are also similarly going to have a lot of crossover things where our career paths have crossed, and some personal things too. So
yeah,
looking forward to it.
Some things you don't even know because you sent me that note about Matrix, because I think I've mentioned we're in the Matrix like 47 times on this. By the way, this is something Britopotamus. That's because we all have new people. I have to say Britopotamus is Britt Burns, our producer. I've noticed that when I'm exaggerating, or if I say a number like 47 times, I always use the number 47. And I think everybody has a number. Like if you say, I bet we've done that 52 times. If you pay attention, I think everybody has a number they say.
I'm going to say mine is probably 72. For some reason, I like to use it. Well, it depends on what you're exaggerating. In your case, if you said 878 times, everybody would know you're exaggerating. 47 is maybe a believable number.
It's believable. I don't know what that is. That's about. Anyway, King Saville, Alliance Insurance, based out of Montgomery, but you're in Birmingham.
Correct.
Producer and consultant.
Correct. Been in Alliance 10 years this month.
Wow.
Yep.
So we first met. We'll try to pinpoint the date. One thing I do know is you probably had blue and orange head to toe.
Most likely.
If there's one thing that I identify,
I can't believe I don't today.
Your fandom for Auburn is part of your identity.
Definitely.
I can remember, I don't know if it was, well, we met at Northwestern Mutual.
When did you come to Northwestern? Because I was there before you were.
When were you there?
I came as soon as I graduated from Auburn, which would have been June 2001.
Boy, it was really close to that.
Very close.
It could not have been. It had to be right around the same time.
I think maybe I'd been there about a year, maybe a little less when you came.
Maybe 2002. I think that's a pretty good guesstimate for me is 2002.
Probably so.
Because we were in that office kind of behind McCormick and Schmick's off Lakeshore.
That's right.
My first office was where all the financial reps were. It wasn't on that separate side.
Right.
Yeah,
you had an office kind of right there around what we called the bullpen where all the young reps were, and I was at that time fresh out of college, agent 79954. I still remember my agent number, even though it's been a long time. But yeah, that's where we met.
So 2002, 21 years.
Yeah.
Man, that's a whole adult. My son's 21 years old. Shoosh.
Crazy.
All right, I've got random questions for you.
Okay. Usually most people, I don't want to tell you how to do your job. Most people start with my name.
I was about to do it. That's where I was going. I was about to ask about your name.
Okay.
King Saville. What is your full name? What's your whole name?
William King Saville.
So here's a fun fact. I don't know if you know this or not. When my son Carson was born, I was lobbying for the name Kingsley.
Really?
No, Kingston. To be named King.
No joke.
No joke.
All right, Matrix number 1. Actually, besides Northwestern, that's Matrix number 2.
But my ex-wife was not having any of it. Actually, I had dinner with my daughter Madeline and her boyfriend last night in Huntsville. I bought a new car yesterday.
Congrats.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. We had dinner. And
What kind? You can't.
it's the exact same thing. I bought a Audi SQ5, which that's what I had.
Okay.
I just got the newest version of it.
Nice.
I was very familiar with the controls. That's what you do when you get old. You're like, I don't want to learn anything new.
We don't like change as we get older.
But yeah, I was also, when Madeline was born, I was lobbying for the name Boston. And
Boston?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Madeline was like, Dad, you realize you would have had kids named Boston and King. That I'm not sure that would have worked out. I'm like, it would have been unique. So I guess the first question is William King. Mm-hmm. You're not William. You're not Bill. You're King.
Yep.
What was the decision to go by King?
Well, it definitely was not mine.
Right.
My father's name.
By the way, that would have been super baller. If you'd have been like, well, Scott, when I was 14.
That's right.
I was like, you know what? I am a king.
I've actually thought, because it is a little bit hard to explain. Every time I meet somebody, I have to give the whole story. So I've thought about changing it and going by William as I've gotten older, but so many people know me as King now. That's a hard transition. My father is William. He goes by Billy. And so I guess my parents didn't want to have that double, the junior scenario or whatever. My grandfather, on my mother's side, his name is King. His name was King David Cleveland.
Wow, King David.
So he was named after King David in the Bible, of the Old Testament. And so anyway, they gave me his name. He actually died a couple months before I was born. So kind of in honor of him, I think they rolled with the name King.
Well, I love it. I mean, I love unique things. Excuse me. I think it fits. You're just King. You couldn't be Billy or William.
Well,
you have to be King.
Funny enough, because I've had to explain it a few times, and no one's quite ready for the name King when I first say it. So, like, if we're ordering takeout or something like that, I'll tell them my name's William. Oh, it's a lot easier than come again.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier that way. Yeah.
So, the name Saville is a unique name. Is that French? What is Saville?
It's a little bit of everything. It's European. Okay. There's Seville, Spain, obviously, as you know. There's Seville, a little bit of that in there. England. I can't really trace it to any specific region.
Well, you've heard me talk enough now over the years over True that I talk a lot, and I'm so jealous of people who have cool names. Like you have two cool names, King Saville.
Well, thank you.
Scott Smith. It's just not fair a little bit that you get a cool name like that.
Scott Smith's about as generic.
I know.
In fact, I remember one of the first meetings I took you to. You probably don't remember this. It was a company. When I was a Northwestern rep, I was a financial rep. Scott and a guy named Richie Salem were the two group benefits experts that were in our office. I took you into a meeting with the CFO at Homeland Vinyl, which is a company.
I remember that.
And the CFO's name was Scott Smith also.
Yeah. I tried to get him as a client forever.
Yeah, I've tried a million times too. I still try. I haven't been successful. But.
That Scott Smith was very nice.
Yep.
And I thought I was going to be able to use that name thing.
Yeah, you'd have thought that's perfect. Hey, give me your business because we got the same name. But
you know what? I want to help. Let's go back. Let's get him.
Let's go.
Let's revisit it. I do remember that. I remember a lot of old clients and prospect meetings, and it's
funny. I remember a lot of the ones that I thought I was going to get, and told me no, almost as vividly as I remember how I got, the ones that did say yes. But
I was talking, I think, on our monthly sales call at True this past week, and was remembering back around how many appointments I had as a really, really young rookie. This was even in Atlanta before, when I was just starting in the group benefits business, where I would just cold call like crazy and talk myself into these really big companies. And I got the appointment, and I didn't really have any reason to be there.
And on the drive over, you're thinking, what am I going to say when I get there?
And I'm just thinking how, when you get to be a mature salesperson or producer, sometimes you just forget that you can actually talk your way into appointments.
Yeah.
Like now would be really good at that, but I wouldn't have the drive to cold call, 200 times a day. Interesting.
Well, as a Northwestern rep, they said we were in the financial planning business, but we were in the life insurance business. but that is a, hunt to kill or you don't eat
Yes.
business. And so it's, while it's frustrating a lot of the time, it's the best sales training in the world. So we were kind of taught as part of the training, sell the appointment, do anything you can to just get in the door and get the appointment, and you'll figure it out when you get there.
Right.
So to your point, picking up the phone and just saying whatever you need to do to get in the door and get the appointment, that runs right along with our training.
I think we over romanticize a lot of things from the past. So for example, I've said to a ton of parents, my kids are now Val and I have 4 now. So 24, 22, 21, 20.
Yeah.
And
doubled your family in one shot.
Yeah, quickly. And I've said it 47 times, more than that really, how much I miss some of those days coaching youth sports and getting the kids ready for school. I totally forgot all the pain in the ass stuff that goes along with that,
Trust me, there's plenty.
I know, but I'm just telling you, you look back and you want to go back. You want to be more patient. You want to be, a little more understanding, and like all those things. But
Some of these things you wish you had done differently, but you just didn't know at the time.
Didn't know. I was talking to who was I talking to about parenting that waited a while. Who did we just have on the podcast? Who was recently? Michael Goldman, Tim Randall. Who was that? There's a fair amount of people who have waited later in life to have kids.
Yeah.
Who, by and large, are such better parents because they're so mature.
Yeah.
I was both younger and immature, so that's
accurate.
A key to my
accurate as someone who knew you during that time.
Yeah, a theme for my whole life.
I got married when I was 23, had our first child when we were 27, and so definitely had not lived a ton of life. Jenny and I, my wife and I, joke about at that time when you're having your kids, the book that everybody read was called What to Expect When You're Expecting.
Yeah, I remember it.
Nowhere in there was there anything about the middle school years.
Right.
And like if you have a girl when she hits 7th grade, things are going to go completely haywire.
Yeah.
So they I know there's a lot of parenting books, but
that's a good one. Teenage girls. Everybody I talk to, that's the 7th to 9th grade, something happens.
Oh, that's brutal.
And even, I don't know if it's with you guys, but it's a lot of mom and daughter conflict. I mean, dad's involved, but it's a lot of mom-daughter conflict at that age.
Yeah.
They come around. Let me just say that they come around. Almost always, my daughter and ex-wife are now very close, and while they still irritate each other a little bit, it's nothing like it was, I'm going to say, 13 to 19.
Yeah.
That kind of...
Oh, really? That long? Dang.
It could, yeah.
Ours started about... I should probably tell you, I have a senior in high school, a 9th grader, who's the one I'm referring to, and then a 5th grade daughter. When my middle daughter hit 7th grade, that's when it really started going it went from, enjoying this is my little girl to very much butting heads, mostly with my wife, and then me some on the exterior, because me, like most, I want to fix it.
Yeah.
So when she's having conflict with my wife, while I try to keep a little distance, I also want to jump in there and say, you're upsetting my wife, you're upset, let me try to fix it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, as you know, there's just not a lot you can do.
Not a lot of fixing.
But we are seeing a lot of, now she's in high school as a 9th grader, that's a whole new set of problems, but we're seeing her mature and come out of the kind of constant conflict mode.
Yeah.
So that's been good.
It's, when I look back, I mean, teenagers are just selfish. And
very much so.
I was selfish. I look back at, it's hard to be really self-reflective and put yourself in the mindset of a 17-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old self. but you can. And I wasn't thinking about much else besides me. And as a parent, it's hard because you're so invested. You're like, I can't imagine what my parents were going through when I was doing some nonsense. Not bad nonsense, just sort of focused on me.
Right. You don't have another thought in the world other than, how does this affect me?
That's exactly right. Speaking of me, let's take it back. Where were you born?
I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. Actually, I heard you talk to Chris. I was born in Tucker, Georgia, where you said you lived briefly.
My first apartment in Atlanta after marriage, was in Tucker, Georgia.
That is crazy. I was there at the time. Well, let's see. What year would that have been?
That would have been 1995.
Okay. So I lived there. I was born in 79. We moved from there 1993. As I was going into high school, we moved up to Chattanooga, a place called Lookout Mountain, which is southernmost mountain on the Appalachian Trail. It's where Rock City and Ruby Falls and all that stuff is. A lot of tourists go there. So we lived on Lookout Mountain. That was a tough transition. Atlanta and Chattanooga are extremely different.
Now, how old were you when you moved?
I was going into 9th grade, so I was starting high school. It was tough. It was a very tough transition, no doubt.
What high school did you go to in Chattanooga?
Chattanooga Christian. Small school. I graduated with 80 people. Yeah.
So, and I know a little bit about Chattanooga is only about an hour and 15 minutes from here.
Yeah.
Hour and a
Gosh,
half.
I didn't realize it was that close, but that makes sense.
Really close. The guys at Renewal drove down recently. They were on a podcast.
Okay.
That's Renewal Insurance, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Shout out to Ryan and Dylan. We have a thing now where we just generically shout out to people.
Absolutely.
You can even shout out to a place. It's become kind of a joke now, even more so that I'm declaring it.
Okay.
You can just shout out to anybody.
Well, since we mentioned Atlanta, shout out to Liz and Maggie and Chesley and all the folks that enjoyed Atlanta.
Oh, man, they don't need shout outs. I'm just kidding. They're my favorites.
They're great.
So you move in 9th grade. Are you playing sports at this time? What are you involved in?
So that's another thing. So yes, my entire childhood was sports. Well, among other things, but I played every sport under the sun. By the time I got to high school, baseball was really the one that I was most qualified to continue playing. It was the one I was naturally talented at and loved the most. So I only played baseball in high school. But what was unique is having come from Atlanta and me and all my friends were like that. All we did was play sports, got home in the afternoon, played wiffle ball, basketball and driveway, whatever it was. Chattanooga is very much a different town in the aspect that there's so many natural things to do: rock climbing, kayaking, whitewater rafting, all right there. That's what a lot of guys that grow up there wind up doing. Sports was not near as popular among my friend group there. So it was definitely a bit of a culture shock too.
Yeah. It's a tough time to move as a pubescent boy, like the high school, 9th grade.
Right.
Small school. Like they already had their friend groups.
For sure.
What was it like? I mean, how long did it take you to kind of make that feel like home?
Second half of my junior year.
Okay.
So it was a while. It was a tough transition. I finally kind of started figuring things out, because when you're in 9th grade, just as a boy in general, you're school aside, you're trying to figure some things out. And I keep up with a lot of folks from my class in that area to this day. But that was also kind of some good sales training. I got to get to know some people that are not like me,
right?
And find some common ground. So yeah.
It's how do you end up at Auburn? Did you go there straight out of high school?
I did.
Okay. So did you know you wanted to go there? What were your options? What were you looking at? What
my plan at that time, it was to play college baseball at a small school. Okay. I was definitely not an SEC level player. But I had talked to 2 schools about it. Actually, there's a college called King College up in Bristol, Tennessee. And I had talked to their coach and had 2 high school teammates that were going there to play. So I planned on possibly going there to play. There's also a small school on Lookout Mountain called Covenant College that I was looking at. And then I decided, why do I want to go to college 2 miles from my house?
Yep.
That's a little familiar. I had an older sister that went to Auburn, and she graduated in Atlanta. So Auburn was close for her. She graduated before we moved. So, excuse me. So I went down there to visit her, and it was on a football weekend. And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm coming here. So that was it.
So because our parents and family make up a lot of who we are, experiences, you have one older sister.
Yep.
Is that it?
2 younger sisters.
Oh.
I'm the only boy of 4.
So how old's everybody?
My older sister is 3 years older than me. I have a sister 3 years younger than me, and a sister 5 years younger than me.
Okay. And where are they all located right now?
So my parents, after we all graduated, moved back to Atlanta.
Okay.
And I have 2 sisters in Atlanta and 1 in Chattanooga.
Are you close with your sisters?
Pretty close. I have one that's we're all very different.
Okay.
Like very different.
Mm-hmm.
My middle younger sister is an artist. She has an art studio in Atlanta, in Buckhead.
Okay.
And my older sister helps manage a theater, not like a movie theater, like a play theater that does kind of off-Broadway plays in Atlanta.
Which, do you know the theater name?
Oh, shoot.
Put
me on the spot, Scott. I don't know it off the top of my head.
All
I
right.
should know.
We won't let her hear this episode.
Yeah. Mary, if you're listening, sorry. And then my youngest sister works for Blue Cross of Tennessee.
Oh.
In Chattanooga.
3 sisters. How was so?
You would think that would prepare me well for marriage, but it did not.
Well, like I said, we're all selfish at that time, so we're not thinking about much. So one of them had already graduated.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2 were in school with you. They moved to Chattanooga too.
Yes.
Did any of them have more issues? Better to like, what was as a family unit? What was it like going to not just you, but what was it like with the family unit? New town, new school.
Yeah, I think we all had a tough time. I think my youngest sister probably, excuse me, my youngest sister probably adjusted well. For one thing, we kind of say she's the best of all of us. Okay. She's the easiest to get along with, just all the way around. And she was at a young enough age where it was a little smoother transition.
Yeah.
Now going through it with my kids, we see new kids come in 3rd or 4th grade, and it's like instantly friends because nobody really cares. It's let's play together on the playground.
Yeah.
So she probably had the easiest transition. But yeah, it was a definite culture shock for all of us.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get to some fun stuff. So you get to Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Were you in a fraternity at Auburn?
No.
The
whole fraternity thing, nothing against it. I know a lot of people go that route. It just didn't make sense to me. Within your first 2 weeks on campus, you're kind of deciding the friend group that you're going to spend your next 4 years with. That just kind of that concept didn't fit with me. I know a lot of people love it and nothing wrong with it, but
no, I'm just curious because it's such something. My son at Alabama, Carson, was like, "There's 0 chance I'm doing that nonsense." Like he just knew, he's like, "There's no way I can do it."
Yeah,
and
I think my son's the same way. He's a senior now and kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah, we won't offend anybody that's in fraternities with any more conversation.
Said
about
that carefully.
I was in a fraternity, but I was in a fraternity at Jacksonville State University. It is not even the same.
Wait,
thing.
I didn't know you started at Jack State. I thought you were always at UAH.
No, well, I went to UAH to play basketball.
Right.
Actually transferred to a school, DeKalb Junior College in Atlanta, Georgia, to play.
And I grew up in DeKalb County.
So didn't do that. A whole different story there.
Oh, come on now. I know you're interviewing me, but give us a little bit of context.
I got there.
I bet a good number of True Network does not know that you play college basketball.
Probably not. So some very briefly too. But my parents, when I graduated high school, my mom and then stepdad, so they moved to Guntersville the last half of my senior year. Okay. So
you moved with them, I assume?
No. So I was living with my dad in Guntersville.
Okay.
My dad, and I've shared this openly with the people, was an alcoholic, had a bad drinking problem. But I was just living with him, and I hid that from everybody for multiple years because I did not. Okay, let me back this up just to get full circle. 6th grade, my parents got divorced after 6th grade. My 7th grade year, I spent half of the year in Huntsville, Alabama, at Chapman Middle School. And then my mother remarried very quickly, and the guy lived in Dandridge, Tennessee, a suburb of Knoxville, kind of close to Gatlinburg a little bit. And I spent the second half of my 7th grade year miserable.
Yeah.
Miserable.
You moved up there with them?
Yeah, I moved up there with them.
Okay.
I missed all my friends in Guntersville.
Of course.
Sports, everything like that. I was sort of locked in as a good athlete there. I was having to prove myself at all these other schools and bouncing around. It was just...
Your legend did not go with you.
No, it did not go with me at all.
Yeah.
So I convinced, and my dad convinced my mom that he had stopped drinking. So I moved back in 8th grade to Guntersville, lived with my dad. 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, half of 11th grade. And bounced around. I mean, he was in rehab a couple of times. Dad didn't tell anybody.
Sure.
Whole story there. But somehow my mom found out. Eventually, I think somebody called her and said, listen, y'all need to do something. Mm-hmm. So my stepdad, or who she had married, was like a traveling salesman, and he could live anywhere. So they moved back to Guntersville, 11th grade, just to give me stability.
Great.
Excuse me, 12th grade.
Wait, can I just say that was a pretty loving thing to do for them?
Oh yeah,
uproot where they were to come
for sure
be with you.
Yes, and yeah, I've had such a crazy upbringing. So the last half of my senior year, basically lived with my mom and my little brother, who's 8 years younger, excuse me, and so when I graduated, they moved to Atlanta, Stone Mountain, right?
God, that's so crazy. That's right by where I lived.
So my brother went to Stone Mountain High School.
Did you go see the laser show?
Oh yeah, we lived at Stone Mountain West Apartments, which is at the west.
You could probably
gate.
see it from your apartment.
Well, there wasn't so many trees, but we could walk there. So I had played my freshman year at basketball at UAH and was starting the sophomore year. Our coach left. So shout out Coach Tony Engel. I don't know where he is in the world, but he's a nut. He went straight from UAH to be the #1 assistant at BYU. And then that guy at BYU retired, a legend. And he became the head coach at BYU for 1 year. I think they went like 3-24. Something was terrible.
Nice.
He ended up winning a national championship at Kennesaw College in Kennesaw State,
Georgia?
in Georgia.
Wow.
15 years ago. Anyway, so the new coach came in at UAH and was like, "Hey, we don't know if you got a scholarship next year or not. We're evaluating all the players." And I was at that time was like, it was not fun playing at UAH. Other than the relationships I had on the team, we woke up super early. There was no crowds at the games. You have to love small college sports.
So my son, not to interrupt you, but my son is in that position now, similar to where I kind of was. You know, he is a baseball player and a pretty good baseball player. The way that college sports is now, maybe, you know, the best of the best, the best of the best go straight out of high school to a D1 baseball program, an SEC level baseball program. The big time programs, rather than recruit high school athletes, would just rather go to someone who's already established himself at a college level, either a small school or a junior college. This guy's already proven himself. Why take a chance on a high school senior? We're going to take this guy. Yeah. So you almost are forced to go the either junior college or very small school route. So my son is evaluating that and saying, would I rather go to Auburn and have a great time with my friends? Or would I rather try to go to this junior college knowing kind of what you experience and what a lot of people that have gone ahead of him have experienced, and then maybe I'll be able to use that as a stepping stone to a bigger program. So
yeah, so I'll take a pause in my story to respond to that. If I was giving him advice, if he loves it, I mean, loves to play, and realistically, let's say his body can mature a lot in a year,
right,
or two, and he improves so much that it's like, you know what, I really think I can work hard enough, and I'm going to grow, and I'm going to be a Division I player. If that's his passion, then I would say pursue that at least for a year, because you can never. Regret's the worst thing ever.
That's what I tell him all the time. Don't live with what if I could have.
But if he's really like, I'm not going to be a professional baseball player.
Yeah.
I'm good enough to play Division I. I'd rather just go to school. I mean, it's a tough decision.
That's kind of where he is, and he's extremely good at academically, and so he wants to pursue a finance degree, maybe, or nobody's certain, but he's a very, very good student as well. So he's kind of trying to balance that.
We're all over the place right now, but I will say that if there's one degree I think one can get that's meaningful in the College of Business, it's a finance degree. The rest of them I think are kind of useless, unless marketing, business.
That's debatable. I'm a finance degree, and
you turned out okay.
Well.
Debatable. So anyway, I'll go back to real quick my story. So I end up saying, you know what, I'm just going to go to Atlanta. I was going to take a year off school, but somehow the coach at DeKalb College is like, bro, why don't you come play here? Like, if you're going to go to school, don't take a year off. Just take a minimal course load and play. I go to one practice, and just the team vibe and chemistry was like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
And so I ended up, I think I took a class or two, but I basically took a year off school, and then actually found this marketing job where I was making a decent amount of money for a 20 I wasn't 21. I was 20. I took this full-time marketing job where I was actually, a lot of people won't remember this, but if you've ever remember going into like a restaurant or a store or a gas station, there used to be these boxes and it would say register for a free vacation. And you would fill out something and you put it in there. It was basically just lead generation.
Of course.
For something.
Or stick your business card in the fish bowl.
So this was a lead generation for a timeshare resort.
Oh, my word.
Right? And so I just met this guy. There's a longer story that I will not go into, but I met a guy that owned this company, and he basically, it's the birth of sales. He was like, you get paid for every qualified lead. So every time somebody between 25 and 62 that makes this amount of money, they check a box of income. Every time they put that one of those in there, you get $1. And it's up to you to get as many of those as you can.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So anyway, for a little over a year, I did that. And it was crazy experiences in Atlanta doing that as a 20-year-old. And, but then I quickly realized I was only going to make so much. The guy was a little nuts that was running the company. And I could
imagine.
And I was going to Jacksonville. Two of my best friends were at Jacksonville State.
Okay.
And so I went and visited, and I was like, what kind of college experience is this? This is not UAH.
Right.
It was parties and girls, and I ended up going like for a weekend, and I stayed the whole week on their couch. And I was just like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go to school here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up at Jacksonville State for 2 years.
For those that don't know, Jacksonville State is in just outside of Gadsden, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a smaller version of an SEC, much smaller version of an SEC school. A lot of the same atmosphere, vibe, you would say.
Yeah, it's a lot of people that can't get into bigger schools.
I wasn't going to say that.
It's a huge party school. I mean, I don't know what the graduation rate is for freshmen that start versus finish. It's not that high. But it's a very small community, southern town, a good, there was a Division II at that time football team, but good sports. Actually, I almost played basketball there, but again, I think I was done with that. A good friend of...
Close that chapter of your life.
I closed it. Actually, a guy from Crossville, Alabama here, Mitch Rice. I didn't really know Mitch at that time, but we were the same age. He was a super good basketball player. And I ended up being roommates with his brother, Richie Rice, who was a couple years older. And Mitch was the first. Mitch was way better than me. And when I talked to Mitch, he was like, I don't think you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't getting any playing time.
Right.
And I was like, I'll just do this for... So all this was said was I was in a fraternity at Jacksonville, but we're talking about the dues were $40 a month. It was a bunch of just kids from like Rockmart, Georgia, and Boaz, Alabama.
Right.
It was not like an Alabama Auburn fraternity. All right, let's get to we're derailed. We got to get back on King. So you're at Auburn, freshman. What's that? What was your freshman year like at Auburn?
It was my 4 years at Auburn were the greatest time of my life. Well, I shouldn't say that since I have 3 kids and a wife and all that.
It's okay.
Selfishly, from a selfish perspective, greatest time of my life. I saw it as a fresh start. No one there knew anything about me. Mm-hmm. And I'm coming from a situation, like I mentioned earlier, where, high school was tough the first couple of years. It wound up being great by the time I graduated. But I saw it as just, hey, nobody here knows me. I've got a chance to reset and just make what I want of make out of my life what I want out of it. So I loved it, and fell in with while I wasn't in a fraternity, fell in with a Christian organization called RUF. Made some friends pretty easily, which is where I ended up meeting my wife as well. So yeah.
Did you, looking back in the moment, did you see it as that time to reinvent yourself, or was it like, it's pretty cool for a kid to realize that. So you mentioned you met Jenny there.
Yep.
When's the first time you saw her and she saw you? Like what? Take me back.
We were set up on a blind date.
Oh, okay.
So
had you seen her before or nothing?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I have a funny story about that. So her roommate and one of her good friends started dating. They dated for a while, and Jenny was sort of third wheeling it, and they were kind of like, hey, we got to pawn you off on somebody else.
Right.
They both knew me, so they set us up and the rest is history.
First date. What'd you do on the first date?
I took her to the Applebee's in Auburn.
Yes, y'all.
Yeah, fancy, high dollar.
It's college. It's actually a pretty
college
good date.
Applebee's
That's a strong early move. Yeah.
So anyway, we went there and sort of hit it off. We kind of saw each other as having the same ideals, and both kind of raised in Christian home. We both went to a small Christian school, and saw the future of life kind of the same way.
Yeah. Where's she from?
Birmingham.
Where'd she go to high school?
She went to Briarwood.
Yep.
That you're probably familiar with.
Yeah. Everybody in Birmingham knows Briarwood. I could probably dial in somebody her age that I know.
I'm sure.
Bart Yancey.
Yeah.
Is he the same age? He's older.
Bart is, no, I think Bart is maybe 2 years ahead of Jenny.
Yeah.
Something like that. And Bart, for those that don't know, started in our business with a enrollment company, ended up selling that a couple years later. And I ran into his dad a couple weeks ago, and he said he's moving, or he's been living in Utah, and I think they're moving out there permanently.
Oh, really?
So I haven't talked to Bart in a couple of years, but I see his dad more frequently than I see him.
I haven't talked to Bart in probably 10 years. His ex-partner, Bailess Wydell.
Yep.
I think, is Bailess still in Birmingham? Do you remember?
Last I heard, I haven't seen Bailess in a while either.
Because he got out
both
of that
former
business.
Unum guys.
Yeah.
They built a pretty successful enrollment firm and then ended up selling it, and not rode off into the sunset, but kind of transitioned away from the business.
They did. Bailess left pretty early, I think, once they sold it. Those bring back so many memories.
Bart was on sorry, we keep digressing, but Bart was on a reality show a couple of years ago. I don't know if you saw that.
Well, that was because his wife, right?
I should say his wife was on a reality show, which he made a couple appearances. Bart is a very pretty person.
Yeah, handsome fella.
And
great, the best dresser ever. He early
snazzy,
on,
sharp.
One of the best dressers ever.
Probably no one listening to this podcast has any idea who Bart is, but
genuinely nice. I mean,
great guy.
Played
quarterback at Sanford. Had the whole package.
Yeah, great athlete. That was, I think, back to my years in sales, and I can remember vividly a couple of cases that we won with them when they were, I guess it was Enrollment Advisors was the name of their
That's right.
company. I can still see their logo. There were so many times where we sold stuff that was like, how in the world do we talk ourselves into that?
Anyone that's been in this business long enough would say that.
Yeah. All right, let me jump back in the timeline a little bit. So
I finished at Auburn.
What year were you when you met Jenny in Auburn?
We met as she's a year older than me. I was a sophomore. She was a junior. Went on a few dates, broke for the summer, came back, didn't really do anything. We started dating again seriously towards the end of my junior year. I guess middle of my junior year, middle of her senior year. And then she graduated a year ahead of I did, and we had already gotten fairly serious, started talking about marriage, and then got engaged about a month after I graduated. So 2001.
I could not talk about your formative years because we're still in the formative years. We haven't gotten to work yet or anything. So I can't, we have to talk about music and hip hop.
Okay.
And
we weren't going to leave this podcast without getting to that. I was fairly confident.
So for those of you who don't know, King is unbelievable karaoke-er. A karaoke performer in the world of hip hop. And
I don't sing. I only rap.
Oh, I don't sing either. Well, no, I will. It's just so bad. But you're really good. Like legitimately performance level stuff. Like it's really good. When did your love of hip hop start?
Growing up in Atlanta, late 80s, early 90s, hip hop was it.
Yep.
And I mean, it was pretty much from the first time I heard it, which would have been, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade for me.
What'd you hear first? Do you remember a song or songs that you heard?
I remember, my parents weren't going to take me down to the store to buy an NWA tape.
Yeah.
So at that time we had what's called record stores, and you had to go actually to a store to buy an album. I'm trying to think. The one I remember the most distinctly, although it was not the first, was when Vanilla Ice came out with To the Extreme.
Yes.
But it was prior to that I had was already loving the genre.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the first artist.
Mine started early too. I can remember. I can't
remember.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember.
Tell me.
Sir Mix-a-Lot, everyone knows from Baby Got Back.
Yes.
Sir Mix-a-Lot had a album prior to that I had a cousin that turned me on to, an album called Swass.
Okay.
And that probably was the first I heard that I remember, this is awesome.
I love these kind of conversations. Wait,
there's me with Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Hold on. We have a Britopotamus has put this up here.
And that is the original album that I had him sign.
That's a cassette?
That's a cassette tape. Still have it.
So where did you run into him?
He did a concert up in Nashville that I went to, and it was, as you can imagine, Sir Mix-a-Lot is not selling out stadiums these days. It was a fairly small venue.
Right.
So he hung around and met a couple fans afterward and got to meet him.
So for the listeners, I forget to say
My hair
this.
looks great in that picture, by the way.
So for the listeners, we're looking at a television with a picture of King and Sir Mix-a-Lot with the signed cassette. That's so funny. One of the tragedies in life is when I first moved back to Guntersville, I was somewhere out of town. Don't know where I was. And a friend of mine called me and said, hey, you want to go to, at that time it was called Somewhere on the Lake, which is a bar, really. I said, what's up? They're like, Bubba Sparks is playing tonight.
Oh, your favorite.
Well, just one of my...
Every time I've seen you, you do Miss New Booty by
that's because it has shock value in the beginning because nobody expects
sure.
me to do Miss New Booty. It's kind of funny. I wouldn't say I'm a huge Bubba Sparks fan. Although, ironically, he's a huge Alabama basketball fan.
Did not know that.
He's from Georgia. But I was like, what? Bubba Sparks? Yeah, he's promoting this new country album.
My town. Yeah.
And I was out of town. I was like, he's in Guntersville and I can't go.
Can we get a picture of Bubba Sparks, Britt? You got one?
It'll take him a second. So I love talking about the first time you saw someone, the first time you heard a song, I just love sort of nostalgia. I can remember sitting in my little trailer in my little bedroom, tuning the radio. I guess it was 107.7 in Birmingham that I could barely pick up in Guntersville, and hearing the song, hearing a UTFO song. This was probably 1981 or 2.
There he is.
I think that's an older.
You got to get
picture
one
of Bubba
with the grill in it.
Yeah, there's one right there. That's an early Bubba Sparks.
Yeah.
So I've told this story before. I don't know if I've told it to you. I probably have. Do you know I actually met Miss New Booty?
No.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So the crowd I was running around with, it was right after I got divorced in Atlanta. And one of the girls, somehow Miss New Booty came up, don't ask me. And one of the girls said, well, that was written about one of my best friends. I was like, excuse me? I said, yeah, she dated. She didn't call him Bubba Sparks. He's whatever his real name is. Mm-hmm. She was like, oh no, that was when it was that. And she dated my bet, like they were going to get married. Then he got into drugs and all this kind of good stuff. But he wrote that song about her.
How funny.
And I was like, I have to meet her. Well, he's like, well, she'll be over here for the game later. I'm like, you're kidding me. And
it was crazy coincidence.
It was, and I was like, that is Miss New Booty. It was a little underwhelming, I will say. Well, I mean, she was a mom at this point. It was just like meeting.
She didn't show up in a thong and a bikini. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Bubba Sparks.
Here it is.
So, all right. So hip hop, you heard this.
By the way, on my Facebook profile, if anyone wants to look it up, I'm trying to remember off. I tried to list things kind of in the order of priority. Mm-hmm. So it says Christ follower, husband, Auburn alumni, baseball coach, and third best white rapper alive.
Who are you putting ahead of you?
So I have to put Vanilla Ice in that category because
I don't think you have to actually.
Not because he's the most talented. He was the first and he's the one that hit me at the time in life. That was like
right.
The right.
Well, he
time.
wasn't the first. If you go back to third base,
Pop Goes the Weasel is about Vanilla Ice.
But
they were an established group.
They were an established group before. And there was somebody.
Did you know that
else.
reference, by the way, when I pulled out Pop Goes the Weasel?
Oh yeah, Pop Goes the Weasel, goes the Weasel, goes Pop.
Yeah, that song is about Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
But anyway, him and Eminem, of course.
I'm gonna have to go. There was somebody. Oh man. All right, I can't do it. Britopotamus. Can you Google first white Caucasian rappers and see if anybody comes up? Like, maybe even go so deep as like who was a white rapper before Vanilla Ice, and only pull it up if you find something meaningful.
There's a few.
I don't remember Rapping Rodney.
I cannot name many Rapping Rodney hits.
No. I can remember. I think I was at Jacksonville State when that song came out. No,
Ice Ice Baby.
Beastie Boys, 1986.
Yeah, the Beastie Boys, of course, they were pre all that.
Come on now.
How could I
forget the Beastie Boys?
Well, I put them in the rap rock category, not the true hip hop category.
Bro, they're hip hop. That is, they would murder you right now if they heard you say that. They are true hip hop heads.
Definitely.
So Beastie Boys was my high school. This was 86, 87, 85, 86. Oh, okay. Sorry. I think I told this on a podcast maybe. I think I did tell this. I'm going to tell it to you because you'll find it funny. So we were just in Croatia, and Liz Freyer was on this boat with us, and obviously there's going to be karaoke if Liz is involved.
No, you don't say.
And so it was not the Miss New Booty crowd, first of all, but they wanted me
cruise
to do,
ship. But
they wanted, actually it would have been fine. I'm just bored with that song. So they're like Beastie Boys, and I'm like, I'll do Paul Revere, and it's just not a great karaoke song.
No, it's not,
because there's no like hook to like for people to.
You should have gone Fight for Your Right. I mean, that's a for sure.
It is. I don't love that. Later, I did. I didn't do Brass Monkey.
Brass Monkey's another good one.
I think I did. No, you know what I did? I went total sellout, and I did Bust a Move by Young MC.
Matrix moment.
Yes.
I mentioned I went to a very small Christian, very conservative school. Probably the only kid in the school that liked hip hop.
Yeah.
We did this thing because it was a small enough school. We did this thing called chapel every Wednesday, where a speaker would come in.
I like where this is going.
When you're a senior, you get to do what's called senior chapel. So every so often they would let one of the seniors lead it. One of my best friends, it was his week, said, "Hey King, I had this idea because I'm gonna have a band there and we're gonna sing a couple songs. Would you come up and rap?" And we can do it together. And so I did Bust a Move in front of my entire high school.
That's fantastic.
And so
that's a crowd pleaser.
It was. You've never seen so many white people stand up and try to clap along to the beat best they could. So it was quite funny.
That's too funny. So you have a deep love for hip hop. If you had to go Mount Rushmore, not the Mount Rushmore, just your Mount. How many is there? 4 people on Mount Rushmore? That's terrible. I don't know that. Who would be up there as far as just your favorite?
My favorites?
Yeah, just your favorite. It could be favorite. It could whatever. There's no rules here.
Can I put Snoop and Dr. Dre in kind of as one?
Sure, that's what you want to do. There's no rules.
That would probably be my. I'd go Eminem 1 and then that combination 2.
Yeah.
I can't. Forgive me, but I can't not put Vanilla Ice on there.
That's the only thing we're going to have beef with right now is that's so crazy.
Yeah. Gosh, then I'm such a, because of the time in life it hit, I'm such a West Coast Death Row favorite. But I'm trying to think outside that who I would put as
I'm going to throw names.
Let me come back. Okay. Give me a few names.
Tupac has got to be somebody you loved.
Definitely.
Now,
as far as talented rappers, he's for sure up there.
Yeah. So on mine, Jay-Z would be on mine. I just love his voice. I love the sound.
I don't like Jay-Z.
We've had this conversation.
Throw that
before.
out there.
I just love the way his voice sounds.
Biggie's got to be up there as far as talent.
Biggie, yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit older, so I had some earlier influences.
Yeah, give me some.
Well, I don't think this is not talent. So
first of all, are we talking Grandmaster Flash?
No
level.
Let me just establish something, because we're not necessarily saying the 4 most talented,
just the ones you
hip hop artists. I mean, Run DMC was a big influence,
right? When
I was growing up, it was just the Run DMC and Beastie Boys were parallel at the same time.
Yeah.
So if it's something I listen to a lot, I listen to a lot of Run. Early on, so like in high school, there was Kool Moe Dee.
Yeah.
There's a terrible song called Go See the Doctor. If anybody wants to Google that and laugh about how funny and bad rap was. It was really bad.
When I listen to that early stuff now, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so simplistic.
I know. Also, listen, Big Daddy Kane.
Big Daddy Kane
was so good, man. That guy was so, and he gets a lot of respect.
That's Kane, Kane.
Kane. He gets a lot of respect from.
He does.
From rappers. At that same time, let's see, who was
LL Cool J would have been in there.
LL was very big in high school. But, it was almost more like pop though, really, to me. But a lot of good songs. But there were people that I really liked.
I'm struggling with the fourth one because we're in that area where there's a lot that are pretty similar. None of them
now I'm
really
just
stand out.
enjoying reminiscing for me. Special ed I loved special ed growing up.
Really? That's a deep cut.
Yeah, I was young, so that was very much, and you could.
Most people say the music that they listen to kind of 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade as they were becoming mature is the music that they love for the rest of their life. And
it's older hip hop, you can really hear the lyrics.
Yeah, right.
And you can actually sing them along.
Yeah.
Basically, listen, the kids
rap
these
days is crap.
The kids
it's terrible.
these days, get off my lawn.
Right.
It's but it's hard to understand sometimes.
It definitely is. And you've got, if you go to a concert nowadays, you've got 25 people behind them. All and it's like, I came here to see this artist.
Right.
Steve Harvey has a funny bit about that. I listen to some comedy too. When I go to a concert, I've paid to see you perform.
Right.
I didn't pay to see all your, gang perform. And also, quit telling me to put my hands in there. And, I didn't come to be an active part of the show. I came to watch you entertain me. So anyway.
I'm going to move on from hip hop because this is...
We could stay on this for a very long time.
We could stay on it for a long time. All right, so let me jump back in. So now we're getting into like young adult years.
Yep.
So did you go to Northwestern Mutual right as your first job?
I did.
Wow. Who recruited you?
Lex Williamson.
For those of you who don't know.
One of the best men I've ever known.
Man, I've told so many people that.
I saw you at his funeral.
Yep. He was influential on me in a lot of ways. Some I could never really talk about publicly because it was very personal stuff. But Lex Williamson was the general agent / managing partner. They changed names of Northwestern Mutual of Alabama for a long time. And it's just, man, he was just such a good man.
Yep. I saw his wife and all 3 of his children at the Georgia game 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
And I got to share with them. I hadn't seen them all since the funeral. They see 1 million people at the funeral.
Yeah. Just
the type of impact that he had on me. And it seemed to be pretty meaningful to him. So
I'm glad you said that. We don't get a chance to share that with people often enough. Lex was he was so good. Well, no wonder you came. If Lex recruited you, how did he find out about you? Oh, was it the Briarwood connection? No, with Jim?
No, it was, that business is very much, you recruit, you got to bring on, for every 5 new agents you bring on, 1 will probably be there 3 or 4 years down the line. So it's kind of a high turnover business. Someone in that business came to a recruiting fair down at Auburn.
Oh, gotcha.
Kind of sounded like something that might, fit me, fit my personality, and I think the guy came and said he, sold 1 deal and made $50,000.
Right.
And took the rest of the month off. So I was like, that sounds fantastic. That never really panned out where that happened on any kind of a consistent basis. But so long story short, just kind of started the interviewing process and it worked out. And Jenny was living in Birmingham and made somewhat clear to me that if we were going to get married, that we would be living in Birmingham,
right. Yeah.
or at least not too far away. I had no desire to live in Atlanta or Chattanooga, so that worked out great. I love Birmingham. Been there 22 years now.
And how long were you with Northwestern Mutual?
6 years.
Okay. So I was there probably 3 or 4 years.
You left before I did.
I left before?
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
No. I take that back.
We just moved out. We moved out. Which
you were in that office 3 or 4 years is what you mean.
Yeah. So I was there till 2011.
Okay. Forgive me. Yeah. You moved
13.
out of the office. That was what it was.
Maybe 2013. That's 2011 sounds right.
No, because while I was at McGriff, you had left. You had left Northwestern and gone to Valent or Cobb's?
We sold the practice to SS Nesbitt, which is now Valent.
Yeah.
But that was around 2011.
I was at McGriff when that happened.
Okay. What was the decision to get out of the individual planning / individual insurance space to go into group benefits?
That business is extremely volatile. Our current business is volatile as well, but not nearly as volatile. You make $25,000 one month and you make $1,000 the next month. And it's just very up and down. My son was turning 2. We were pregnant with another one. I was like, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I reached out to a couple of the firms in town because I had a friend that was in our business. I was going to go into the PNC side of it because that's a little more common. When I contacted McGriff, they're like, hey, we're not really looking for anybody right now on that side, but we're looking for somebody to add to the employee benefits department, which was very small at that time. Would you come meet with us and talk to us about that? And I'd already talked to a couple of other firms, and McGriff seemed to really want me to come there. So that's how it worked out.
You know, it's interesting. I probably have a different feeling about Western Mutual than you maybe. So, you know, I started out in the individual planning too with New England Financial in Atlanta in 1995. Very naive, sort of. I was so naive, not worldly. I didn't know anything.
Right.
And I quickly found out that I was going to struggle in that business. And
was it better than selling leads for timeshares?
I made about the same amount of money. Well, I came from a poor family,
right,
in a town, Atlanta. I didn't know anybody,
right.
Owned one suit, and I was studying for my CFP right away, and they were like, "We really want you to sell life and disability insurance."
Right.
And I wasn't ready. I wasn't mature. I could have done it, and I just fell into the group business because of a guy that was there that was the group specialist at New England Financial. But I look at some people, I won't say names just because people can take things the wrong way, but there are a bunch of people that I really respect at Northwestern Mutual in Alabama who have built incredible careers.
Yep.
And I think there's something to the fact of if you start with Northwestern Mutual.
I feel like this is relevant, by the way, because there are a lot of true agencies that cross over in Northwestern Mutual.
Well, this is just about you, man. We're just chatting.
Yeah, no, you know.
If someone just does what they say, if you just suspend all belief, your own intellect, your own feelings, do things your way, not their way, if you just really start and do what they say for a long period of time, it's an incredible career. I mean, an incredible career. I wasn't made for it at that time, but man, there's just some people who have just done incredible things there.
But you also have to have a talent and a natural knack for that. And you have to be you have to be talented enough to do it. And then you also have to be dull enough to rejection because you're going to experience a lot of it. To be able to persevere through that. I think perseverance is more important than anything.
I do too.
Business.
I do too. So do it for 10 years. If you'll just do what they tell you to do in the training program for 10 solid years. I think you wake up and you're like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've got a big renewal base, got clients, I'm getting referrals. I'm smarter than everybody because I made it, you know?
Right.
It wasn't for you. It wasn't for me, but there's a bunch of people who've done really well.
Absolutely.
So anyway, so you get in the group business.
That was another thing that attracted it to me, by the way. I kind of looked at the guys that have been there 20 years. I was like, one, they have no offense to you, a full head of hair that's their natural color. They don't look like they're super stressed. They travel a lot, seem to spend a lot of time off, and still make a pretty good income.
Yeah, because they did it for a long period of time. So what were your first couple of years like in the group business? Go back to those first couple of years.
Basically, at that time, which had been 2006, I was expecting coming into any new company, a lot of training. My first day was basically, here's your cubicle, here's a phone book, good luck.
Right.
And then it literally was. I can't remember if we actually had actual phone books at that time. We probably didn't, but start calling, good luck. And that's different than the individual business where you're calling based on referrals and leads and so forth. I didn't have any leads. I didn't have any natural ties into any large or mid-sized companies to go after. I didn't know really any of the property and casualty producers. I know a couple of them, but they kind of already had their referral base that they were sending leads to. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty much. Now the good thing is, as opposed to the individual playing side, you know, they do give you a bit of a salary to get you through those initial couple of years, but then you got to validate within a certain period of time. But yeah, I mean, I basically was just figured out, and eventually I did, and took some time. The first account I ever wrote was Handy TV and Appliance, if you may remember, from Birmingham. They had, I don't know, 150 employees. And I looked down, I was so excited. I made my first sale, and I looked down at my next check, and I was making $200 a month on that account. So it's like, something has gone wrong,
right?
Because I put a lot of effort into selling that account. You know, so anyway, but it worked out.
Yep. And how long were you at McGriff?
6 years.
Oh, so 6 years at Northwestern, 6 years.
Yep.
A 6-year itch.
Well, I've been in Alliance 10, so
yeah, you made it. What was the process like of getting to Mike Hicks is the owner of Alliance?
Yes.
What was that process? Did you know anybody? Did he recruit you? How'd that happen?
Mike, so I had kind of on my own made the decision that McGriff was no longer the right place for me. We can go into those reasons off air.
Sure.
But I had talked to a couple other firms, I think maybe through either carriers or, you know, our industry is very small. Somehow Mike found out that I was looking, and he contacted me, and the rest is history.
It's interesting. Was Richie Salem at McGriff at that time?
Yes.
Yeah, he came.
So Richie and Scott and I were together at Northwestern when we were first starting, and then a couple of years after I came to McGriff, Richie came, our mutual friend Richie came to McGriff, and he's still there. It's
interesting. We had a pretty bad breakup, really.
Yeah, I know.
Mostly, I'm going to say 60 to 70% my fault, really. Richie Salem is one of the best men I know.
Richie's a great guy.
Really is a wonderful.
A couple weeks ago.
And we exchanged some texts recently, which was fantastic. It's just.
By the way, I brought that up last time I saw him.
Yeah.
He had no hard feelings real well. He said nice things about you. So.
Yeah. Well, there were some things. He probably doesn't even know everything that happened. Lex was very instrumental in that happening, and I just should have handled it better. That's a story for another day.
Yep.
But he's just such a good guy.
Yeah.
But we were also very opposite. I'm sort of
very different personalities.
I was hard charging sales and everything. He's very slow and methodical and patient and kind, and all the things you would want in a friend, a dad, you know, like all those things you would want.
Right. All the ideal qualities of a person.
Yeah. But there were things going on. Lex was getting ready to, transition the business. Right. And yeah, he really spearheaded that. And I just didn't stand up and say, no, let's don't handle it that way. Anyway, I'm looking forward. I'm going to grab lunch with Richie at some point. And he's still at McGriff, right?
Yep. I don't want to, let's not go into that. I'll tell you that story off of it.
Okay. So you get to 10 years ago, you start as a producer and consultant with Alliance. How's it been? I mean, just tell me. I mean, we're almost talking about, we're going to jump back into family, by the way, but how are things going?
So I was able to, at that time, we bought, I bought / Alliance also bought some of my client book from McGriff.
Okay.
So I told myself and I told Mike, there's no way I'm starting over at zero. I'm not interested in doing that. So we were able to buy some clients from McGriff. And so I kind of had a base to start with, and then just grew it from there.
Yeah.
Alliance, everybody at Alliance, hopefully some of them are listening to this. We have a great staff. We have a great team. Been a good 10 years.
What was really interesting, I can remember, I knew Joey Marquez from his days at Blue Cross, and then he was at Alliance. I don't even remember.
Joey came to Alliance about two, maybe 3 years ahead of me.
Right.
He and Mike knew each other.
I cannot remember why I would have talked to Joey about True. I don't remember how that happened, but I can remember sitting down at the Galleria. There was some kind of meeting going on.
In the food court over there by the carousel?
We weren't even, but we were like outside what was the hotel's name?
The Wyatt.
Was it the Winfrey at the time?
Winfrey, sorry.
Yeah.
Not Wyatt.
But we walked outside of that into the actual, like, just some of those seats in the mall. And I pitched Mike on True Network. And at that time, there were 25, 28 members. I can't remember. We have 83 now. We're about to add a couple. It's just it's weird that the way paths have
For sure.
crossed, and I've gotten to know Mike real well, because I really didn't, even though we were both in the business, I didn't cross paths with Mike almost at all during my time as a broker
Right.
in Alabama. But he's quite the character now. Like I've joked before, if Mike's listening to this, is like, sometimes he's like, if there's a picture of like Southern insurance guy, because he's hunting, he's fishing, he's at the lake, he's taking people to Auburn games. Like, he's such a cool and interesting guy. So let's talk about family. Matter of fact, do we have pictures, Britt? So sorry for those who are listening. But
Britt, I kind of blasted you with pictures last night, so you kind of pick out the ones you think are the best.
Okay. Who do we have here?
I am not in this picture, but going left to right, that is my 10-year-old daughter, Callie, my wife, Jenny. I won't mention her age. My 15-year-old just got her learner's permit, daughter, Avery, and then my 17-year-old senior, Brady.
Matrix moment. I also wanted to name my son Avery. So Carson, Avery was really in the mix for my son.
Really?
Yeah.
Both my older two have not so much with Brady, but Avery's definitely a gender bender name.
Mostly girl. And that's that's my ex-wife was like, it sounds like a girl's name. I'm like, no, Avery. No boy's named Avery. It's really unique.
Yeah.
Well, you can definitely tell. What's your son's name?
Brady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can tell he's yours.
Definitely. When we told my in-laws, who are accountants, about Avery's name, they immediately said, "You mean like the company that makes those stickers that you put on envelopes?"
Right.
Yeah, that same thing. Yeah.
Which, by the way, if anybody are asking me, I always don't tell what you're going to name your child, because everybody's got an opinion.
All right.
Because we changed a bunch of names because of what people said to us. What else? Next picture, Britopotamus. Uh-oh.
That's us, and just my older two in New York. That's last Christmas.
Nice.
There at the Rockefeller Center. That's my son and I. We got to go on a mission trip to Alaska last summer. One of the best experiences we've ever had.
That looked fun. Does he go to Oak Mountain?
He does.
So we almost ended up at Oak Mountain in Birmingham.
Really?
Yeah, we almost did. Because we lived in Gardendale, but we're going to, because of my daughter's vision disorder, Oak Mountain had a really good program for IEP stuff. So
this leads into my second favorite passion outside of selling insurance, which is coaching youth sports. This is flag football, and flag football and baseball are what I've coached the most. We had the most success actually in flag football. We won several championships in that. This was that would have been about their 7th grade year.
Let's keep it here for right now. What league are you playing in?
That's there's an over the mountain league.
Okay.
It's based out of Hoover, but it's the over the mountain. It's not the schools, but it's highly competitive.
So when Carson was young, we played in this NFL based, I don't know, it was in Birmingham. We played this big league in Birmingham, and everybody was an NFL team. And we made it to the championship game. We played in Vestavia. And I walked out to see the coach. I didn't know who we were playing because we didn't play everybody during the season.
Yeah.
And we walk out, and the coach comes out to midfield, and we're talking. Oh, this guy looks familiar. Patrick Nix.
Really?
With their
father of Bo Nix.
Father of Bo Nix, who was their quarterback on this team. So he and Carson.
Oh, Bo was the quarterback?
Bo was the quarterback on this flag football team. So I'll meet him, and I was like, wait a second. And he just said, Patrick, they were wonderful. But how about this? Carson did chase him down from behind and catch him.
Oh, nice.
I've got that. They
won, in this league,
so
there's if you're one of the winners of the league, you go on and play in kind of a state tournament, basically, which we've won a couple times that as well. But one of the teams in that tournament was coached by Stan White, also, who is the quarterback that Patrick Nix succeeded for.
This is at Auburn, by the way. People don't know these are Auburn quarterbacks.
But Stan White's also the current is the radio announcer for Auburn as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, his son was playing, and he's a coach.
This was like, and you can fact check me on this, because I think he had just left Georgia Tech as their coach.
Oh yeah,
Patrick had, and was not coaching. And
He was
that,
an NFL coordinator at one time.
Yeah.
as well.
I felt a little bit outmanned with his son and
Feel like
him as the other
like
coach.
small Scott there for a minute.
Yeah, it was little Scotty. I felt intimidated. What else do we have here?
This is at True Learning Academy.
Oh, that's at a true event. Okay, so we have from left to right you, one Matthew Canova from Maynard Nexon now, our legal retainer, our legal partner.
Matthew is while he's our legal consultant, Matthew also likes to enjoy a good time as well.
We can't talk about that on air.
Okay.
But he is one of my favorite people. We were just in Denver doing a joint event for Intrepid, Colorado, and I did not know that he was an avid golfer now. So we've got to get, well, in Birmingham, we need to go play some golf and get him out there.
Love to.
So let me just give him a plug right now. He is maybe the smartest benefit person, legal mind that I know. It's like an encyclopedia of knowledge. And sometimes he talks so fast, I'm like, I have no idea what you said. Just say that, and I'll look smart, but I don't know what you said. And then we have Dan McCarthy from Allied, an impressive human being. He's like a black belt in judo and stuff. Like,
Did not know that.
Yeah. And then
He's quite fit.
Oh yeah, he's super. He's jacked. And then one of a longtime best friend, John Monahan with PDCM at Iowa. Shout out Johnny. I haven't seen him recently. I need to get him down here. And that's probably like I
believe that's at the after party at what's the bar that Liz always takes us to in Chicago?
With all the red lights. That doesn't look like that. There's no red lights in that place unless you're in the back. Well, maybe there's a red thing over here. I don't know where that might be.
I feel like that's there. I feel like I'd kind of just come off stage at that point, but I'm not sure.
All right, next picture. Do we have more? Oh, what's this? It's you in a cap and gown.
Britt, I forgot I sent you that one. This was kind of goofy. I thought about posting it on LinkedIn. I got my RABC designation a couple months ago, and I decided, my kids decided for me, please don't post this, Dad.
Oh, got it.
So anyway.
I think you should post it. 100%. Slim Shady and his M&Ms.
Thought you'd like this. So I'm currently coaching my youngest daughter's 10-year-old softball team, and this is last Halloween. There's a softball tournament kind of the week of Halloween. We've got another one coming up this Halloween, actually this Saturday, but we were Eminem and his little M&Ms.
That's fantastic. That really is cool. Do we have more pictures?
It's me meeting Vanilla Ice. We already saw the one of me and Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Are you sitting down or is he up on stage?
He's on stage.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Where are you with this?
He was in Birmingham this a couple years ago, downtown in the Lakeview district.
Okay. That's fun. There we go. So all those little sports pictures that you have, I'm incredibly jealous that you're still in that age.
Yeah, it's fun. It's great.
So
it's funny, Joey and I talk a lot.
Oh,
Joey is...
This is Joey Marquez, also a producer consultant at Alliance.
His kids are about 6 or 7 years behind mine, behind my older children, and he's just hitting this phase of coaching, and he is all about it now. And so I'd kind of been telling him when his kids were a lot younger, telling him about my kids doing this, and kind of nodding his head and saying, okay, quit telling me how great a coach you are. Now that he's in it, literally when you do a Zoom call with Joey, behind him in the backdrop is his first grade Metro champion Vestavia team. Right. So he's quite happy with it as well.
That's cool. Man, well, I'm jealous of Joey for being like in that moment, and you're still in it a little bit.
Yeah.
I probably coached Carson for 10 soccer seasons because he played spring and fall.
Right.
Until he got...
And he went on to play soccer.
He didn't play in college.
Okay.
But he very competitive high school player.
Because I remember one true event, you had us all stand up and wish his team luck.
They were going into the state championships.
Gotcha.
The playoffs. I'm still bitter because the 2020 year was cut short by COVID.
Oh, yeah.
They were ranked number 4 in the state.
Oh, my goodness.
Really in the top 10 in the whole beyond classifications. 12 seniors.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
I'm so bitter. Anyway, we could talk youth sports
God,
forever.
you can't get that back.
No, I like the parents. The kids are so adaptable. They're fine. The kids were all right. Let me think. King Saville.
So I
haven't given you a...
I coached flag football, but my better sport that I spent the more time in was baseball.
Okay.
And we spent a lot of time out there on the baseball
field. Here we have another picture.
This is one of our favorite events. We got to go to a Cal Ripken experience. long story short, Cal Ripken puts together a simulated park of major league fields. And so this is the Camden Yards
Oh, that's cool.
field, and that's my little team. And
The Lightning.
anyway, we won a bunch of games.
Well, I'm jealous of that. What else are you into? Sports, family, church?
So all of that, all the above. I've started, you call it a midlife crisis or just call it wanting to continue to grow. I started learning how to play the drums about 3 years ago. And that's been fun. I'm very musical.
A drummer.
I love music. And I don't only love rap. I love a lot of different styles. But
I'm sure your wife loves that you've chosen the drums.
They love when I go in the basement and start banging on the drums. I try to do it when they're not home, but
so maybe you can get Chris Hamilton as a drummer in the network.
I know I'm trying to catch up to Chris so that whenever we do the true band, maybe I can sit in for Chris. I know
well,
he's a lot better than I
we could
am.
have real drums and then bongos.
Yeah,
all kind of percussion
for sure. But that was something that I thought this is kind of something I've always wanted to do. Always been interested in. I'm gonna pick it up and try to learn it midlife.
I'm a big fan of doing that. Growth without goals, constant learning. All right, so I'm really bad at wrapping these up. So I
had one last question.
Okay.
That I thought maybe you can use this on future podcasts. I like to ask some people this from time to time that I've known a while, which is, what was your first impression of me? And I think if you ask somebody that's known you for a little bit of time, that's always a good question. As you're in our business constantly meeting new people,
yeah,
maybe I can adjust and adapt.
All right, that's an interesting question. The first time, I can remember the first impression. It probably wasn't the first time we met, but I vividly remember my first impression.
Okay.
It was like some sort of Northwestern Mutual golf outing, and we were in the same foursome, and you came to, like, I was already at the tee, you drove up, and you had on Auburn gear, like, head to toe. It was like chilly, so there's like an Auburn beanie, Auburn outfit. Your shoes might have even matched. It was just blue and orange.
Yeah.
And so that was the conversation. And I can remember thinking, I'm going to be totally honest, that's a really confident guy. Almost maybe a little bit arrogant, a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Definitely confident. Yeah, I mean, you were younger, so I can remember thinking, man, that's a confident guy. That's really my first. I can remember you smiling, kind of joking on the tee box. We're taking practice swings, and you got the Auburn stuff on, and I probably made some kind of Auburn joke.
Which Auburn, it does that around the country. Auburn and Alabama is the most heated rivalry there is. You can't convince me otherwise. Having not grown up here, not ever lived in Birmingham, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, really?
And so,
that's so
I
funny.
wasn't ready for the pushback from Alabama fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sounds accurate that I probably pulled up at the last minute.
Right.
And probably was decked out in orange and blue.
You know what's interesting on that is that, I was in Atlanta from 93 to 99, basically. And I remember telling people, I kind of pull for Auburn when I got 4 years away from the heat, the fire that is the 24/7 rivalry.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll pull. And my friends were like, what? And then I got back. And really what happens is you kind of get really close friends that are fans of the other school.
Yeah.
That are just such jerks about it.
Yeah.
That on all sides, that it's just like, oh yeah, I want them to lose all the time now. It's just, but it's fun to me now.
Right.
Like I don't
want to have to hear them brag on Monday.
Yeah.
Is what it's mostly about.
I actually like the fact that, like, if an Auburn fan is rooting against Alabama, it's somewhat endearing as long as it stays fun.
It goes both ways.
As long as it stays fun.
Yeah.
Well, man, I think this might be the longest one we've recorded.
Wow.
Probably because we've known each other for so long.
I didn't know that I was so interesting.
Yeah, so special. And now we're going to do something cool because we're going to go see an old college friend of yours who lives here in Guntersville.
My next door neighbor when I was at Auburn was our current lieutenant governor of our state, Will Ainsworth, and he lives here in Guntersville. So we're going to swing by and just say a quick hello to him.
So I don't know Will, but when he sees me, he'll be like, oh yeah, I've definitely seen you around town.
Yeah.
He might.
Guntersville's not that big. I figured at some point you've probably seen each other.
And there's a good chance he's our governor at some point.
A very good chance.
Yeah. All right, we're doing it. Well, listen, man, thanks for hanging out.
This was fun. That hour, however long we've gone, went by pretty quick.
Yep. That's the hope. All right, man. True
Thank
love.
you, Scott.
We'll do a little cheers. All right, see you, man.
Take care.
Hands up, heads down, shake it on.